Hello. I'd like to just demonstrate where I'm at with a independent poker project that I've been working on. This is an indie game project, potentially an asset to sell to other Unreal Engine 4 developers to use in their game to add poker to it, or could eventually develop into its own independent game. It is kind of based off of like Poker Night at the Inventory 1 and 2, where it's a single player experience, pretty casual poker experience where you can play against four poker AIs and you can watch them play against each other as well. So that's kind of what I've taken inspiration from. It does work on a basic level. As far as it sets big blind, little blind. It deals an actual digital deck of cards. That it's just one card per type. Um, everything works. The players take turns. As you can see, a lot of it's happening right here. It's happening so fast though because I don't have animations between all these things. So I don't have the 3D models of the characters doing their thing, but it is working. And you can see up here in this corner that things are happening rapidly. Um, and Yeah, it has an occasional bug here and there where perhaps one of the opponents will bet everything they have, but it might not be a bug. They are running off, related. They're running off of AI that's pretty simple, and it bases a lot of their decisions on how much money they have, how much the pot is, as well as a random factor. So definitely not how poker players decide how they do things, but it's been set up in a way that it could be expanded upon into something very complex and something very cool. So um, that's all going pretty well. So you can see the flop has been done right here in the middle here. These three cards have been done, and then it would be the turn card in the river. Um, if we get to that point. But yeah, I mean, they're losing money. They're using it to use bets. It's all kind of working decently. Small quirks here and there, but it fundamentally does work. That they're all taking their turns. It does respect whether you're small blind, little blind. Um, then that does ascend. Everything rotates as it should per showdown, and it does work pretty well. And I'll show you the foundation of this app, this game. It really all started with how as a player would calculate what they have, and fundamentally one of the things that this does is it calculates based on what the player two cards and what's on the table if they have a winning hand. Do they have a royal flush? Do they have a flush, full house, straight? Different kinds, pairs, even the high card. Like that's the last thing it checks if there's a high card because of ties and whatnot. Um, and they're all very sound, excuse me, sound in how they're programmed. As far as they're using for loops and arrays and pretty standard things, but it's basic ideas, but it works. This can tell either your hand or an opponent's hand, and it can compare them and tell you who's winning. And that's ultimately one of the biggest hurdles to go over when you're making an app like this. Um, to go into more about like your opponents, I mean, the opponents have the same logic of telling if they can win or not based on their comparisons. And going even a little further, like they also their actions like betting. They bet a few different ways, and all this may these graphs, these images may not mean anything to anybody, and that's okay. Um, the point is, it's like this app does go through every rule of Texas Hold'em that I could think of and that I've researched. And I'm not a poker expert, but I play casually and I play poker games, and I'm fascinated with Texas Hold'em in general. Um, some of the more impressive comparisons that this app does is like who's tied, because it can actually go through everybody's hand and it goes through their combos. It determines what are the combos that are tied. If they are tied combos, it determines who the final winner is based on a high card, and it manages the payout too. I mean, all the steps. And when it gets to that point, turns are introduced. I have a system to make it work no matter how many players are playing, that it goes to the right turn, that the right person is getting set as the big blind or the little blind, how they're winning, how they're getting paid, who's declared winner in the end. There's even logic for side pots versus the main pots because side pots happen. So I think I've hit most things that are within the poker rules of Texas Hold'em. Um, at least enough to get something that works and something that is basically functional and needs, graphics. It needs that whole front end part to really flesh it out. But it is fundamentally working on a basic level. Like they are playing poker with each other, and you are playing poker with them, and you can win or lose at this point. Um, it's not very pretty how it is now, but it is running. And if you look at this console, it proves it really. Um, because those are all the things that are going on with everything. So that's where I'm at now. I do want to keep working on this. It's one of my favorite projects. I've learned a lot of development, and I learned a lot about poker developing this. So thanks so much for your time. That's all I have to show for now, and I hope to show more later. Thank you very much.